Let's bring in Executive Chairman of the Teneo Risk Advisory and former NYPD Commissioner Bill Bratton. Commissioner, thank you so much for your time. Unfortunately, under these circumstances, you are obviously the author of this book that we have up here, The Profession, a Memoir of Policing in America, so clearly an expert on this topic. As a former NYPD chief, though, how concerned are you that we have seen these two deadly shootings right here in Midtown in just the span of 15 months?
Well, naturally, that's a point of concern, but the overall crime rate in New York City, including shootings and murders, has declined pretty dramatically, as it has in the country, interestingly enough, over the last year or so. So these two incidents would still have to be considered as isolated rather than a pattern or a growing trend. That's the good news. And out of these incidents, you constantly seek to learn. Are there new things that we can be doing to try and protect, in this case, a building and its occupants, or in the instance of the executive that was killed on the streets, trying to keep the streets as safe as possible. In that regard, New York has been working very hard to do both.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask you, a lot of people say, you know, look, there was security at this building. We had an NYPD officer that was stationed there. You had a security guard, but unfortunately, those were two of the first people who were gunned down in this incident. So what more can be done to fortify these establishments against what looks to be a lone wolf attack?
There is very little that can be done in addition to what was done at this building. This building had not one but two New York City police officers assigned to that building. It is literally a block and a half from the 17th Police Precinct, that literally right down the street. Park Avenue is one of the most heavily traversed streets. Your earlier reporter referenced the idea that the time that the suspect showed up at 6:30, 6:40, if he'd been there about an hour earlier, Park Avenue between 5 and 6 o'clock is loaded with pedestrians. My office was one block away from this office on Park Avenue, and the lobby of that building would have been packed with people leaving. So in some respects, we're fortunate that he arrived when he did. If he'd arrived earlier, it could have been much worse, both on the street as well as in the building. But in terms of improving security, this building, literally having armed police officers, having security systems in place, things will be learned. The idea of control of the elevators, where are those controls? Are they at the front desk? Are they in a control room? The mayor mentioned that this building may have had safe room capabilities with pretty bulletproof doors. That might work in smaller environments, but in a large environment that you'd have to have a huge room to accommodate an office building that has thousands of employees.
I want to show our viewers this image that's been circulating of employees in some of those in that office building, barricading themselves behind couches, doing anything they can to seal off the doors there. What kind of advice would you give to people who are in the workplace and are concerned about their safety?
Well, my compliments to what those people in those offices did. Starting around 2013, 2014, as the threats of ICEs at that time were increasing, we attempted to significantly educate the public around the concept of run, hide, and fight if you're dealing with a terrorist incident, active shooter. In this instance, I believe that building, like my own building, has loudspeaker notifications for people to stay in their offices, lock themselves in, and not try to run away from the event, because that nobody knew where this individual was in the building at the time. So compliments to those people and their response in the sense of not only staying in their offices, but putting up those barricades. A good move on their part, particularly with an active shooter in the building.
This suspect, as we've been learning, has crossed state lines, went all the way from Las Vegas right here to the heart of New York City. Do you believe the NYPD is staffed, trained, and even prepared to handle these kinds of situations? How can you even foresee them?
Oh, sure. That the city has an extraordinarily comprehensive camera system that they'll be rebuilding. That's individuals every move once he came into New York City, as they've been able to rebuild it across many states. During my time as commissioner, 2014, 2015, in response to the murder of two New York City police officers, like this officer, both immigrants to this country, who were killed sitting in their patrol car, we created two new units in New York City, the Strategic Response Group and the Critical Response Command, almost 1,200 officers. Those are the officers you see throughout New York City at all hours of the day, with the Kevlar helmets, the long guns, the K9, And there's no city in America that has the resources that New York has. And these individuals, as well as the whole department, are constantly being trained on the issue of what they confronted yesterday, an active shooter. The response, as you saw, to that event was huge. Hundreds of officers responding very quickly, as well as the coordination with many other agencies, ATF, FBI, MTA. You do a lot of training, you do a lot of preparation, but unfortunately, these instances are always going to occur, maybe not of this magnitude, but they are relatively few in this huge city of New York.
And New York has very strict gun laws. Really quickly, I have to ask you, is there any measure that can keep a gunman who transferred across state lines from carrying out an attack of this nature?
Really nothing to prevent that other than what has already been reported on. Apparently, he gave off no indication through threats, social media, that he was planning anything. Once they get into his home in Las Vegas and get access, if he has laptops or things in his home, maybe they'll get a better idea. But there was no warning. No agency that I'm aware of had any indication that this individual was coming. And so how do you defend against that other than what that building already had? It had 2 police officers, it had security officers. They'll learn from it, but they effectively had what passes at the moment for state of the art. They had probably more security in that building than most office buildings in New York City or in America for that matter.
Of course, our hearts also go out, of course, to the victims in all of this. Bill Bratton, thank you so much for your insights.